Today, we're going to discuss the realities of becoming a police officer and what that means for you pursuing this new career. Let's discuss. Before we get started, I have two gifts in the description for you. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process. Plus, there's some hidden bonuses in there I will think you will like. Yeah. And then the next is a coaching call with any member of my team or even myself, if you'd like, where we could go in, go over your expectations of not only the hiring process, but the career in general, or any questions you may have to succeed in the law enforcement hiring process or career. Now, the realities of becoming a police officer and what exactly that means, what to expect from it and how it might shape your career or even desire to go into law enforcement. So, I want to hit two components to this right off the bat. The first component is the rewards and the rewarding feeling that you have as a law enforcement officer when you help people. And then the aspects of it still being an employment, and you still have to consider that. So I'm going to start with the employment side and the realities there. Understand that when you apply for a position as an employee, you're at the whim of those who you're asking for employment. And this goes from the hiring process all the way through your career. So, from the hiring process standpoint, I see a lot of candidates say, "Hey, I'm a great candidate. There's no reason why I wouldn't be hired," with the exception that they don't realize that they're still applying for a position. And then that position still wants to hire the most qualified and the best applicant that department or agency or hiring organization determines is the right fit for them. So what's that mean? That means that you could be a stellar prior military with no issues and a clean background and go in and all of a sudden you do your board interview and they tell you no thank you. And you're saying, wait, why no thank you? I mean, I'm everything you're looking for. Well, yes, and while we may be in, I don't want to say a hiring crisis right now, right? But while we may be, short-staffed and we're looking to fill billets, we don't want to fill them with just anyone, right? Because that's law enforcement learned a long time ago. That's a way to go down a rabbit hole and to get the department just completely obliterated by hiring the wrong individuals that don't properly represent the community or the department and don't properly fulfill the department's core values, right? So you could be an absolute just perfect candidate on paper and they tell you no because of how you conduct yourself, whether that be in an interview for a board, whether that be in an interview for the psych or any aspects. And I've seen it happen multiple times, right? It's just part of it is, are you the right fit? It's not just, oh, get through all this and you're good. That's why a conditional offer, while you've heard me say in the past, it doesn't carry much weight to guarantee your employment. What it does tell you is that that department wants you, right? That department wants to hire you. They just need to make sure that you pass the minimum criteria to get hired so they can, get you out on the street and get you through a background process and as get you a background clearance. There we go. So you're going through and you think, hey, I'm perfect. Like there's no reason. No, it's still employment, right? It's still them trying to get the best candidate. And guess what? It's not just you out there that has a perfect background. Someone might not even have a perfect background, but that department might think they're a perfect fit for them. And what I mean by this, everyone's probably freaking out right now. What do you mean? Perfect background versus not perfect background. One, a perfect background, they could not believe you on that. They could think that you're lying. But two, uh, like I said, maybe your background's perfect, but your attitude isn't, right? Maybe or the way that you conducted yourself or presented yourself didn't strike them very well. Whereas a person over here who said, hey, yes, I have had, in my youth, let's say, let's pick a number, say someone's 30 now, a candidate's 30 now, but in their youth between 18 and 20, they received 10 speeding violations, right? Well, it's pretty significant. This individual has a history of not obeying traffic laws. All right, but then from 20 to 30, They didn't receive any moving violation. Matter of fact, they weren't even stopped by law enforcement. Well, they still have some hurdles in their background, right? But they articulate, hey, I was a foolish kid, and I thank the last officer that stopped me, which is what led me to law enforcement. That last officer that stopped me, told me, "Hey, I see you've been stopped a lot. You can do better." Maybe that individual motivated them, or maybe a family member that was law enforcement, or any reason, any person doesn't even have to be law enforcement, motivated them to turn themselves around. And the individual is very humble and about that, and has a lot of humility in their mistakes, and just owns it. That individual might be selected over top of the individual that's coming out of the military with just a clean background. But then when they interview the individual, they're just like, "Nah, you're not the fit that we want for this department." That is the mistake I see a lot of individuals make when it comes to becoming a police officer. Is they forget that they're still applying for employment. Yes, there's just a lot more you have to do to get this job, right? You have to pass all these stages. All these stages, that is the difference between what's called a disqualification and a non-select. A non-select is you meet the requirements, we just don't want you. We want to go with someone else. A disqualification is you don't meet the requirements, so we're going to remove you from the hiring process. To put it in, I mean, it's a little bit more convoluted than that or and contextual, but to put it in the simplest terms, that's exactly what it is. So when you go through and you're like, man, I passed everything, but they didn't hire me. Well, yeah, I had 10 spots open. I had 15 people pass everything, right? And I had 10 people that we thought were a better fit than you, whether that's because they were more experienced, they had cleaner backgrounds, or they just conducted themselves better. And it could be that simple, right? So don't forget that when it comes to your law enforcement hiring and your career, it matters. You're still in normal employment, right? So, and let's kind of take this further past the hiring process real quick. Law enforcement isn't exempt from, all the woes and trials and tribulations that you have at other employers. Now, a lot of times it will be less, I should say, right? That's not all the time, right? You might get stuck with a bad department that you're just unaware of, or have bad colleagues. My first few months with one of my agencies within DC, right? I had a supervisor that just very much did not like me. I mean, I didn't really do anything to my knowledge that caused them to not like me. They just didn't like me. Um, that supervisor eventually was moved on, we'll so to say, in a professional term. Um, but that supervisor just didn't like me. And guess what? That was something I had to deal with, right? It is what it is. Eventually I climbed the ladder and I promoted and it wasn't an issue. But while that supervisor was my supervisor, they didn't. Matter of fact, I'll get even deep. They didn't talk to me. Like when my shift supervisors swapped over, because they swapped kind of middle of my shift, that supervisor, I could be doing an arrest and I'd have to go through another individual to get that, then have that individual talk to that supervisor to get them to sign off on an arrest. It was trying, we'll put it that way. But it didn't hurt my opinion of the career, right? It just was a work issue. You're going to sometimes have supervisors or colleagues that just, you're not on the same page with, or they're not on the same page with you. As long as you're doing everything by the book, you're following the law, you're following policies and procedures, you'll be fine. But don't think law enforcement is exempt from that. I also have some people that I met from law enforcement that are just as close to me as family, just like the military. And the bonds you will build with individuals from doing a career like this or the military, and those that are in military or law enforcement understand this. I mean, it's as deep as family, as blood, and these individuals, because you share a battlefield, or you share a patrol beat, and you're out there and you're looking after each other at the same time as looking after the community. There's no camaraderie that you're ever going to find that competes with that, ever, at all. But it's still employment, just like any other job, right? I do call law enforcement a career, not a job. I distinct the two as something that you can grow and do for your entire life if you choose so or not. I mean, individuals that don't finish out their law enforcement career to all the way to retirement are still highly desired in other fields because of the capabilities and the commitment that they've been proven to make, right? So keep that in mind. The employment aspect is still there. You're still going to have to deal with HR, right? You're still going to have to deal with, with supervision and colleagues. All that stuff is there. So if any of that ever is an issue, right, you just know that a lot of times there's always some rotation going on, right? You can always request different shifts. You can all people either move along or in today's day and age, I would dare say make a bold comment that, if you have a bad officer within the department, a lot of people will make it their, I don't want to say their mission, but make it a point to notify that officer where they stand. So kind of keep that in mind. Then there's the other side, right? Then there's the changes that you'll make in not only your life and other people's lives, the impact. That's what I'm going for. The impact you're going to make. That's something that even I don't know if I can articulate it to the fullest because you could you could make an impact just by, and I may have told this story before, but just by making a phone call and save someone's life. And you're saying, how the heck could that happen? I'll give you a quick story. DC is the weekend. I'm on bike patrol. I always love doing bike patrol on the weekends. Got to work out while still interacting with the community because you're much more approachable on the bike rather than in your patrol vehicle. Getting to work out, like I was saying, it was great. It was best of everything. Uh, I'm outside Union Station, which is the train station for DC, and a mother comes running up to me, frantic with a young daughter, and she tells me, "Hey, I'm on hold with 911, DC Metro 911, and my 16-year-old daughter's at home alone, and she's telling me, three men are breaking into the house right now." Just wow, just and so this is outside my jurisdiction, not to mention there's no way I could get there. I'm on a bike, right? And so I have my partner with me. He and I are trying to get a hold of the situation, figure out what's going on. The mom's got two phones going right now. One, she's trying to reach DC Metro through 911 dispatch. And then the other one, she's trying to talk to her daughter. So we were able to speak with her daughter, get her in a safe location within the house where the safest location that she could get to within the house without going past these individuals. I do believe, I may be wrong, but I do believe a firearm was in the home as well. And then from there, me and my colleague were able to use a back end line, a law enforcement line, to get a hold of DC Metro past the emergency services number that was bogged down, and get units over to that house to respond. Now, once again, it wasn't our we had to fill out a report, obviously, for that citizen contact, but that wasn't our case, so to say. That was in a different jurisdiction than ours or patrol area, and it was, and DC Metro took over that call. Now, I was informed later on that it all worked out. They were able to get there. They were able to detain the suspects, and they were able to ensure the safety of the daughter. So that was a huge win, but just something like that. I mean, that is a story that has just stuck with me. I saw the panic in that mother's eyes and then the gratefulness of it after just being able to make a phone call, just a single phone call, and then also being able to talk her daughter into a safe location. That was something that, like I said, is memorable to me. And that isn't even the high speed stuff. That's just a phone call. But that phone call potentially saved a young woman's life, right? And it helped a mother and another young daughter um, feel confident that law enforcement was there to support them. And that was just two bike patrol officers. right? So there's a multitude of those stories that I have, and you're going to have those of your own. But those are the rewarding times that you'll have, and there's a lot of them. Having a kid come up to me with their father, and their father, expressing what law enforcement does so you don't have to express it yourself, and then telling their child, hey, if you're ever in trouble, look for someone with, a uniform like this, that's law enforcement, or anyone with a uniform, that's public safety, firefighters, EMS, anything. That is in itself a rewarding feeling, and as I work with these candidates, leaving their professions, because a lot of people have a misconception that it's just, 21-year-olds. That's not our average hiring age. Our average hiring age that we see is usually somewhere between 25 and 35. But the what I see from these individuals is the desire to want to do more. Maybe they're working IT, or maybe they're working ride share, or maybe they're working, some type of construction or blue collar, and they say, "Hey, I want to do something more. I want to do something meaningful." Law enforcement's that job. I promise you, it's that employment. At the end of the day, I try to not let our alumni who graduate the program let it consume them. That's one of the things we talk about, is not letting law enforcement consume your identity, and understand that it is still just employment, and one day you will have to, retire or step back. But at the same point in time, while you're doing it, you can make some significant impacts on individuals and community members, and you can you can really change lives for the better if you truly set out to do that. There's a lot of realities when it comes to becoming a law enforcement officer or being a law enforcement officer. More along the lines of getting hired. The realities are there's not a position out there that you're probably going to do that's probably harder to get into, right? It's very time consuming. Simple mistakes can get you removed. Those mistakes can snowball and cause other departments to not pick you up. But if you take it serious, you do your prep work, you get all your knowledge, and you spend the time to do some research, and you get out there and you actually treat it like what it is, and it's a career that can provide for you and your family for the rest of your entire life, and you guys will be taken care of. I mean, insurance is phenomenal. Pensions, one of the last professions out there with pensions, where hey, even when I'm older and I can't work and I retire, I have a pension. I don't just have, investments that maybe always fluctuate with the economy. No, I have a pension to retire with, and maybe it's a multi-pronged pension. It's it's a rewarding career in multiple ways. And then salaries these days are definitely up there now. I mean, not every department, some departments are still lacking, but a majority, and when I say majority, I mean over 50%, possibly more, 60, 70% are well-paying agencies for the region in which you will be working, right? They definitely match a good livable wage and then some for the area that you work in, plus the differential pays, the overtime pays, special duty pays, any incentives that go on there, hiring bonuses, college college payments. Once again, don't get me started on the insurance that it provides for you and your family at a very reasonable rate. So a lot of realities when it comes to law enforcement. It's a good profession. It's a profession that you can do and know at the end of your career, you made a positive impact on life. It's something to be proud of, as well as one that you can take care of your family with. There's a lot more, as always. I hope this helps. Remember, those gifts are in the description for you, the Getting Started workshop, as well as a coaching call for any member of my team, or even myself, if you like. We can go over your desire and your hiring process to be successful, not only throughout the uh, academy and the hiring, but your career in general. Hope this helps. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.